So the topic for today's session is Pancha Prana or Pancha Vayu. I know that I said that we will do the Samana mudra. We will come to that. Uske pehle, it is important to have a broader understanding of what Vayu is and what Pancha Vayu is. So we will start with that, and then eventually we will come to the practice part, which may be a smaller part today. We may have more of theory time devoted in today's class. Okay, तो सबसे पहले to understand prana as a concept is a very important and a very broad concept. But to simplify it and to understand it right now, it is the vital life force. तो कई बार हमको लगता है prana is just breath, but prana is much more than that. It is actually energy. हमको जो भी काम करना होता है या हमको survive करने के लिए भी, खुद को sustain करने के लिए भी, we need energy. And we will come to the areas or the aspects or the elements that give us energy. Okay, but without energy we cannot survive. तो सर्वाइवल ही क्वेश्चन मार्क है, बाकी सब कुछ ग्रोथ सस्टेनेंस वो तो बात की बात हो गई. So to keep it very very simple, like I said, it's a very broad topic. I'm going to try and simplify it as much as possible. जब हम सांस लेते हैं, every breath that we take, it is divided into 5 parts. That is why it is called Pancha Vayu or Pancha Prana. Okay, तो ये जो 5 parts है, these are called Udan. So these are all actually called Vayu. So there is Udan Vayu, there is Pran Vayu, there is Samana Vayu, there is Apan Vayu, and there is Vyan Vayu. I'm going to repeat it, so it's okay if you missed writing it. Udan Vayu जो है, because the whole body needs it, right? अगर आपको energy चाहिए, जैसे हमको कभी कभी लगता है ना, when we get a form filled by you, आपके health history को या capture करने के लिए, तो बहुत लोग लिखते हैं कि मुझे यहाँ पे पेन होता है या मुझे फलाना तकलीफ है या this area is a challenge, right? But we don't want the body to be that way, ना? We want the whole body to be fit. We don't think अच्छा ठीक है left हाथ में पेन हुआ तो चलेगा, right में नहीं होना चाहिए. That is not how we approach things, right? Which is not the rational way anyway. So when we are talking about the body taking energy, we want the whole body to have energy. We don't want only one part or one part not to have it, correct? तो जब हम सांस लेते हैं, which is a primary source of energy, it is divided into 5 parts. Now these 5 parts or the subtypes of vayu are focused in different areas of the body. तो जैसे पहला है उड़ान वायु. उड़ान वायु जो है is focused on the top part, which is mostly the head part. तो वो जो ग्राफिक भी क्लास में व्हाट्सएप ग्रुप में शेयर किया था, which shows you the 5 types with different sort of markings, it shows you, and it also shows you where it is concentrated. तो एक बार आप वो वापस देख लेना after class. तो उड़ान जो है, which is focused on the upper area, on the head and neck primarily, this is related to the nervous system, because obviously the brain is what makes the nervous system work. तो उड़ान वायु का जो फंक्शन है, वो अलग अलग जो वायु है वो जहां पे कॉन्सेंट्रेटेड है, उससे रिलेटेड ऑर्गन्स, ग्लैंड्स और सिस्टम्स को वो ऑब्वियसली इन्फ्लुएंस करेगा, स्टिम्युलेट करेगा, रेगुलेट करेगा. तो उड़ान वायु जो है वो हमारे नर्वस सिस्टम को रेगुलेट करेगा amongst other things. I'm just giving you the key functions right now. प्राण जो है, which is in the chest area, so obviously it is going to govern our respiration or the respiratory system. Then we come to Saman, which is our main topic for today, which is in the midriff area, mostly concentrated around the navel. So this is responsible for digestion related processes. Then we come to Apan. Apan Vayu, we've already done a session, whole session on it. तो अपान वायु जो है वो डाउनवर्ड एनर्जी है, डाउनवर्ड मूवमेंट ऑफ विंड या वायु है. सो दैट इज ऑब्वियसली रिलेटेड टू प्रोसेसेस लाइक एलिमिनेशन एंड रिप्रोडक्शन. ओके, एंड देन देयर इज व्यान वायु, व्हिच इज pervasive all through the body. So what is that? That is circulation, blood circulation, like we say. So व्यान governs circulation. अब ये सभी हमारे लिए important है. We can't say कि 5 में से 4 ठीक हुए, 1 ठीक नहीं हुआ तो चल जाएगा. That is not how it will work. तो जहां पर भी वायु का फ्लो ठीक नहीं है या ऑब्स्ट्रक्शन है या इनबैलेंस है, तो उस सिस्टम से रिलेटेड, उन ऑर्गन से रिलेटेड उन क्रियाओं से रिलेटेड इम्बैलेंस हमारे बॉडी में क्रिएट होगा. If everything works well, then obviously it works like a very harmonious orchestra, you know, where everybody is playing in sync. If one team member is not playing in sync, then you know कि वो बेसुरा sound करने वाला है. That is exactly how it works. Okay. Now the importance of Saman, we will cover more of Saman today and maybe the other in the following sessions. The main thing to remember about Saman Vayu, it is an integrating life wind. पहले आप इसको समझ लीजिए, बाद में लिख लेना. I'll give you time. And this session is anyway getting recorded. It is an integrating life wind because it is in the navel area. It is in the stomach वाला area, midriff, the center of the body. उसके ऊपर हमारा रेस्पिरेटरी कैपेसिटी है, जहां पे सांस लेके पूरा फैलेगा, और उसके नीचे हमारी अपान वायु है, जो हमारे एक्सक्रीशन को कवर करती है. तो देयर इज इंजेशन वेयर यू आर टेकिंग इन ब्रेथ, रेस्पिरेशन इज हैपनिंग व्हिच इज जस्ट अबव समान वेयर द प्राण वायु इज. समान के नीचे देयर इज अपान वायु वेयर द एक्सक्रीटरी प्रोसेस, एलिमिनेशन, रिप्रोडक्शन, ऑल दैट इज देयर. तो अगर समान डिस्टर्ब्ड है तो जो प्राण वायु है, आपने सांस ले ली लेकिन अगर उसकी ठीक से प्रोसेसिंग नहीं हुई, एनर्जी इनपुट हो गया लेकिन प्रोसेसिंग ठीक से नहीं हुई, तो फिर उसका एलिमिनेशन या उसका जो आगे का स्टेज है दैट विल आल्सो गेट डिस्टर्ब्ड. लाइक आई टेल यू इन सूर्य नमस्कार, अगर आपने एक स्टेप गलत किया है तो आपके बाकी सारे स्टेप्स भी गलत होंगे, एज इन द अलाइनमेंट. करेक्ट? सो सिमिलरली इफ द समान इज डिस्टर्ब बिकॉज it is the balancing one, उसको एनर्जी इनफ्लो और आउटफ्लो दोनों की प्रोसेसिंग और बैलेंसिंग करके वो अगले स्टेप पे फॉरवर्ड करता है. तो अगर वहां पे कोई तकलीफ है तो then there is going to be trouble. So since so many people work in the corporate, I thought of this example. जैसे आपका जो, so let's say you are a junior and rather you are the mid-level executive. So you report to some CXO and you have your team that reports to you. If you lose your cool, आपको तो ऊपर वाले को भी संभालना है, आपको नीचे वाले को भी संभालना है, right? So if the mid-level executive loses his cool, then there is going to be trouble for everyone and for him also. Correct? So that Saman Vayu, that integrating factor is very, very important for the harmony of the body. Each one is important, but remember this is bang in the center. So it plays a very critical role. Okay? So coming to more of the functionality bit, because we have studied about gross body and subtle body. If you are new to this class and you don't know these concepts, let me know. I'll share links where we have covered this and you can go through it. So we always talk कि physical level पे क्या functionality है और कैसे affect करता है, और psychological या emotional या mental level पे how does it affect us and how it correlates to the chakras also. Because this governs digestion, because it is around the navel area, the chakra relevant here is the solar plexus or the Manipur chakra, which again we have done a session on. तो उससे भी ये correlate करेगा. तो जब समान वायु आपकी ठीक तरीके से काम कर रही होगी तो आपका मणिपुर चक्र भी ठीक तरीके से काम कर रहा होगा. It is a very symbiotic relationship. Okay, so apart from, because I only spoke about energy in terms of the breath to begin with for the classification, but we take energy from a lot of other things like food. Food is fuel for the body, right? So food gives us energy. There are things and people and situations that we also get our energy from. So for example, if you are feeling low, there are some people whom you have at the back of your mind whom you will call or whom you will meet or whom you will just go and spend some time with. And we have activities. Some people go for a walk, कुछ लोग म्यूजिक सुनते हैं, कुछ लोग पार्क में चले जाते हैं, कुछ लोग 2 दिन की छुट्टी लेके किसी अच्छी प्लेजेंट जगह पे चले जाते हैं. So we know that to reboot ourselves, we all have a list of things that we get our energy from, है ना? तो वो हमको रिचार्ज करके वापस हमारे एनवायरनमेंट में जब हम आते हैं, which may not be entirely in our control, we just take that pause so that we can get our balance back. We can come back with an improved coping mechanism. करेक्ट, मेक सेंस सो फार? ओके, सो दैट इज ऑल्सो इम्पोर्टेंट. तो ये जो समान वायु है ना, ये हमको प्रोसेसिंग में हेल्प करता है. जैसे अभी वी कम टू फूड, खाना हमने खा लिया, खाना खा लेने से वो खाना पच नहीं जाता है. ऑल्दो डाइजेशन बिगिंस इन द माउथ बिकॉज द फूड मिक्सेस विद सलाइवा, सो दैट इज वेयर इट स्टार्ट्स, but that's not the complete process. Digestion is a 5-step process, and digestion is not complete till the time you excrete, because you can't keep piling up that na. तो डाइजेशन इज अ 5-step process, उसमें समान वायु का बहुत बड़ा रोल होता है. तो what saman does is it helps us to digest, it helps us to process, it helps us to churn. तो आप अगर वो ग्राफिक भी ध्यान से देखेंगे ना, तो लाइक आई सेड देयर इज द मार्किंग इज वेरी टेलिंग बिकॉज इट शोज यू द डायरेक्शन ऑल्सो. समान वायु जो है, मिक्सर का जब जार घुमाते हैं हम, तो वो रोटेट होता है ना, वो चर्न करता है. आपने जो भी उसमें डाला है उसको प्रोसेस करने के लिए वो चर्न करता है. गन्ने का रस जब निकालना होता है तो वो भी रोटेट करता है. इन बिटवीन दैट मशीन दे विल पास इट, it will extract the juice and it will separate the roughage which is not required, which is not edible. Correct? Saman vayu plays the same role in the process of digestion, literally and figuratively. I will explain what that means. तो जैसे हमको चर्निंग की जरूरत होती है, आप उस ग्राफिक में देखेंगे कि समान जो है ना वो सर्कुलर मूवमेंट में घूमता है. जैसे मिक्सर का जार की जो ब्लेड होती है वो सर्कुलर मूवमेंट में घूमती है, पंखा सर्कुलर मूवमेंट में घूमता है, तभी वो सर्कुलेट कर पाता है हवा पूरे रूम के अंदर. करेक्ट? सो समान मूव्स इन दैट वे लाइक अ स्पाइरल स्टेयरकेस. So remember that example of the jar, mixie jar and fan and things like that. So whatever we eat, Saman Vayu is responsible for processing it, for breaking it down, and for separating what we need from what we do not need. And then if Saman is working well, we will be able to retain what we need. If Saman Vayu is disturbed, जैसे बहुत लोगों का होता है, when I studied about child nutrition or infant nutrition, one of the most fascinating and disturbing things that I came to know about was something known as hidden hunger. So for example, there are two categories of children that we are seeing in the world now. One are children whose parents don't have the means to give them nutritious food because of poverty, because of lack of funds. जितना न्यूट्रिशन मिलना चाहिए उतना अच्छा खाना खरीद के बच्चों को खिलाने की हैसियत नहीं है. The other category are people who have enough money, but their kids are the ones who are eating from McDonald's and Pizza Hut and stuff like that. So the body is getting food, but it's not getting nutrition. So that phenomena is called hidden hunger. जहां पे आपका शायद पेट भर गया है लेकिन आपकी बॉडी को तृप्ति नहीं हुई है बिकॉज जो नरिशमेंट चाहिए था वो शरीर को नहीं मिला है. Okay, so what happens is that sometimes we have everything, but we may not have the ability to process it. Okay, I'll say that once again. You may have everything, but maybe we are doing something wrong, which is obstructing the processing and the retention. So there are people who may have the means, who may also be eating right, but because of circumstances, because of constantly being in stressful environments, because of psychological trouble, वो बोलते हैं ना कि खाना शरीर को लगता नहीं है, खाना खा लिया लेकिन शरीर को लगता नहीं है. So that is also a function of saman vayu. Okay, so that is important. Now coming to that part, very important part, where the emotions and thoughts come into play. तो हमको see, that is why I like language so much, because language reflects everything that we live in our life. तो जब हम बोलते हैं ना कि I have butterflies in my stomach, या किसी एग्जाम के पहले या किसी फ्राइटफुल सिचुएशन में we can feel that knot in the stomach. Yeah, everybody has felt that. अगर फिजिकल डिस्कम्फर्ट है, पेट खराब है, तो भी हमको पेट में ऐसे टाइटनेस, क्रैम्प, ऐसे बहुत डिस्कम्फर्ट लगता है, हैवीनेस लगता है. साइकोलॉजिकली और इमोशनली, मेंटली अगर कुछ चैलेंज है, इवन देन आवर गट हेल्थ गेट्स एक्सट्रीमली कॉम्प्रोमाइज्ड. सो दैट प्रोसेसिंग एंड दैट रिटेंशन गेट्स ऑब्स्ट्रक्टेड. ओके, तो वो एब्जॉर्प्शन को हिंडर करेगा, वो एक्सपल्शन को भी हिंडर करेगा. दैट इज व्हाई If you go to any nutritionist, any clinical nutritionists are those who work with people who have physical issues or who have certain medical challenges. So those are clinical nutritionists. They don't just work for weight loss, they work for proper improvement of the body's functionality. So if you go to any clinical nutritionist, they will always ask you about your eating habits, your sleeping habits, your stress factors, and your pooping habits also. So they will ask you कि रोज आपको motion pass होता है कि नहीं होता है. Okay, so all this is interconnected. The stress bit is very, very relevant here. Why is that so relevant? Because, like I said, Udan is on the top, so it works with the nervous system. Saman, which is at the midriff area, at the digestive area, is where the enteric nervous system, or ENS as it is called, which is called gut health or the second brain. Okay, so everything, हम बोलते हैं ना कि gut feeling. If we meet a new person and we don't vibe well, if we go to a place and we feel कि ये जगह की energy अच्छी नहीं है, या आप कुछ करने का सोचते हैं but something holds you back, you are not fully convinced with every fiber of your being. That is our gut telling us something. It is called the second brain, and there is ample research that has proven the connection between gut health and our overall health. That is why, again, a clinical nutritionist will tell you that constipation is the father of all diseases. अगर आपको constipation है तो धीरे धीरे करके वो और चीजें आपके शरीर में और disturbance लेकर आएगा. So if you have 1,000 problems and constipation is one of them, the first one to be addressed should be constipation. Okay, so that is very important. Now, another very fascinating thing is that sometimes we don't understand. Yeah, हम कभी-कभी with our routine, with our functionality, with our deadlines, we may not be aware of a lot of things. हमारी body हमेशा हमको symptoms देती है, हमेशा signals देती है. Whether it is through sleep, through appetite, through lack of appetite, through our moods, everything is a signal that the body is giving us. Sometimes we may miss those signals. So one of the very physiological signals which a lot of people might identify with is कि अगर आपका समान वायु disturbed है, मतलब आपका digestion disturbed है, मतलब आप emotionally भी disturbed होंगे, at the physiological level, it will reflect as pain in the neck, pain in the shoulders, and pain in the lower back. All of which, unfortunately, are very common now. Part of it is how we conduct ourselves on a daily basis. So because we are dependent on screens, we may not be aware of postures. We may be looking down and working. We may be sitting like a cashew, like I read while researching. It said, don't sit like a cashew, sit upright, you know. So because of those things also, we invite a lot of problem. But understand कि, you know, जब भी जिनको constipation होता है ना, उनमें back pain is very, very common. Why? Because आपका system ठीक से खाली भी नहीं हो पा रहा है. अगर समान disturbed है तो अपान disturbed होगा. So a lot of people, even though they may be excreting every day, they still feel कि no, I don't feel I've excreted fully. पूरा खाली नहीं हुआ है, you know, I've not eliminated fully. So obviously there's a lot of load in the system. Okay, इतने से शरीर में there is so much working, so there's a lot of load. That is why flatulence or bloating or gas also leads to back pain, and so does stress. So chronic stress or being in situations where stress is a given on a regular basis is going to affect Saman Vayu and obviously the physical and psychological state. So these are again signs. Too much gas, bloating, constipation, indigestion means that the Agni element, जो हमारे पंच महाभूत है, उसमें जो अग्नि है, Agni is for processing. We've already learned कि जैसे आपके पास में कच्चे raw materials है, उसको पकाने के लिए, to have a meal ready on your plate, you need to pass it through fire. It is a rite of passage. It has to go through Agni so that it becomes digestible to the human body. So obviously Agni is going to be affected. And what will happen, another thing at the psychological or mental level is, it will affect clarity of thought. तो अगर आपकी पाचन शक्ति compromised है, अगर आपका समान, which is the integrating process, so it is not just food, it is also thoughts and experiences. जैसे अभी आप कुछ सुन रहे हैं जो शायद आप पहली बार सुन रहे हैं या इस कॉन्टेक्स्ट में या इस तरीके से शायद पहली बार सुन रहे हैं, that is also giving your mind some stimulation. How much you will be able to process, how much will be retained, how much you may find applying worthwhile in your life, all that is also a processing or churning which Saman Vayu is doing. So if Saman Vayu energy is blocked or compromised or imbalanced, then it is going to affect that retention and application also. Okay, तो जिनका compromised होगा, they will lack clarity of thought also because there's a lot of clutter. जहां पे बहुत क्लटर होता है, जैसे आपका अगर ऑफिस का डेस्क है या घर का किचन है, इफ यू हैव एवरीथिंग ऑर्गेनाइज्ड, you know exactly where to find what. But if everything is mixed up, then how are you going to focus? जैसे बच्चे की एग्जाम आने वाली होती है, तो हम तो मौन ही धारण कर लेते हैं, पिन ड्रॉप साइलेंस होना चाहिए, बिकॉज वी नो कि उसको फोकस चाहिए. सो दैट सेम थिंग should be applied when we come to what are the ways, what are the daily practices that we should bring into our life so that we can strengthen Saman Vayu. So would anybody want to volunteer from whatever you've heard and understood so far? What do you think we should be doing on a daily basis so that we can strengthen our Saman Vayu? If the concept is clear, you should be able to think of something. If you can't, it is okay. There's no pressure. But if you can think of something, unmute and tell me. Anybody? Sheena is volunteering. Good to know. Tell me, Sheena.
We could get a change in sleeping pattern. That could be one.
Sheena, I can't hear you clearly. 1 second. Let me check my audio level. Tell me again.
Now you can hear me?
Better.
Or maybe a change in the sleeping pattern could be one of the things. Or that could align the Saman Vayu.
Correct. So that is one important part. The sleep cycle is very, very important. Anyone else? Anything else? It is related to digestion. That's a very big clue. इतना बड़ा clue तो KBC पे भी नहीं मिलता है. Yeah. So what do you think? Amrita, tell me.
Yeah, I think eating right and drinking good amount of water.
Correct. Okay, so that is why I will elaborate on that. But before we go forward, when we say eating right, coming to the churning or processing part and the mixie example again, अगर आप कुछ भी churn कर रहे हैं mixie के अंदर, you can't fill it to the brim. You have to keep some space empty. अगर आपने उसको ऊपर तक पैक कर दिया है तो वो घूमेगा ही नहीं ना. आप कितना भी उस पे पावर लगा लो, वो नहीं घूम सकता है. It is packed. So along with eating right, how much we eat is also important. Deepam, were you saying something?
I was also talking about food and maybe timing of the food and how much of.
Correct. The timing of the food is also extremely important. So we've already looked at the clock, na, the Ayurvedic clock. कि दिन के जो 24 घंटे हैं, they are divided into different parts. So the certain parts में आपके जो 3 हमारे दोष हैं, उसमें से कोई ना कोई predominant होगा. So वायु दोष या वाता दोष होगा, कफ दोष होगा, पित्त दोष होगा. That is why they say the best time to have lunch is between 10 to 2. I'm not saying you start eating lunch at 2. What I'm trying to say is that at least have it sometime between 12 to 2. Because that is when the pitta dosh is predominant. Pitta is what? Water and fire. Those two elements make pitta dosh. तो आपको अग्नि चाहिए digestion के लिए भी और transformation के लिए भी. Pitta is the fire, rather is the energy of transformation. So if you are eating at irregular timings, I have never understood the concept of midnight buffet. I pity people who think it is a way of enjoyment to have something at midnight. I don't even get the concept of cutting birthday cakes at 12, but that's okay. I'm very old school. You can go ahead and have your celebrations. So, elaborating on eating habits, quantity of food matters a lot. Along with quality. Quality goes without saying. जब हम खाने की बात करते हैं, कोई ये नहीं सोचता है कि मुझे खराब होने वाला, मुझे सड़ा हुआ, मुझे बासी खाना खाना है. So quality is a given. Quantity is very, very important. अगर बहुत कम खाएंगे तो भी जितना एनर्जी चाहिए उतना नहीं मिलेगा. बहुत ज्यादा खाएंगे, we need to understand that digestion is a very, very demanding process on the body. Digest करने के लिए ही बहुत एनर्जी लगती है. both literally and figuratively. तो हम कभी कभी बोलते हैं ना कि मुझे तो ये बात हजम ही नहीं होती, we say those things, right? उसके लिए भी बहुत एनर्जी और बहुत एक ओपननेस. सो इफ वी टॉक टू समबडी whose point of view is very different from ours, we find it very difficult to stomach it, कि ऐसे कैसे हो सकता है. So I'll give you a, ऐसे ही दिमाग में आता, I'm giving an example. Live in relationships, for example. Some people will find it completely unacceptable. Some people will say there is nothing better than living in. You know, it's a very different example, but it is something which people have strong opinions about. है ना? तो similarly, quantity is very important because otherwise आप उसको हजम नहीं कर पाओगे. अगर आप हजम नहीं कर पाओगे तो वो आपको एनर्जी देने की बजाय वो आपकी एनर्जी को और ड्रेन करेगा. Which is why overeating, nobody, I don't know a single person who feels light and energetic after overeating. I used to be that person कि जब कभी शादी वादी में गए, बूफे हुआ, बूफे मतलब 20 चीजें एक साथ, नहीं तो घर में तो 2 से 3 चीजें मैक्सिमम होती है एक प्लेट के अंदर. बूफे में suddenly you see 20 things, you see 5 desserts, go overboard. I used to be that person for a very long time, and now there is no way I can do it because it's a shift that has happened. But I don't know anyone who feels light and energetic and gung-ho about after overeating. We always feel drained, and we 9 out of 10 times we regret having gone overboard. Okay, so quantity is very important. Slow eating is very important. See, again, it needs to be churned, it needs to be processed. That is why at least in Indian culture, I think we are very, very fortunate that we were born in India, or even if we live abroad, we have those roots. Because हमारी जो native wisdom ही इतनी rich है, आयुर्वेद ही इतना rich है, it is the science of life. It tells you how to lead your life, to live in harmony, so that your whole body, your mind, your soul, everything is in harmony. Okay, so the practices that our culture has, कि जमीन पे बैठ के खाओ, हाथ से खाओ, you know, so you'll be surprised to know that the Samana mudra is nothing but this. जैसे हम हाथ से निवाला लेके खाते हैं, this is literally Samana mudra जो हम practice करेंगे before the class ends. And why is this important? Because it brings together all the 5 elements. We already know कि 5 उंगलियों के tips पे हमारे elements represented होते हैं. So this wisdom that we have, तो पहले के जमाने में obviously there was no TV, there was no laptop, तो screen को देख के खाने का चलन नहीं था. The tragedy of our lives is that we work so hard. We work hard because we have responsibilities, but our primary, हम जब बेसिक नेसेसिटी की भी बात करते हैं तो शुरुआत रोटी से करते हैं. रोटी, कपड़ा और मकान. Nobody says पहले मकान फिर कपड़ा और फिर रोटी. It starts with roti. But the level of importance or the level of sanctity that process of cooking, eating, digesting needs, that unfortunately we are losing with our lifestyle. So people eat in between meetings or sometimes at their work desk, TV ke samne, all those things. How will the body process it? Sometimes we've eaten whole meals and we've not registered कि उसका taste कैसा था, या अलग था, अच्छा था, बुरा था. Sometimes we don't even register that. It is just something that we cram into our schedule a lot of times. So if we go back to our native wisdom, and if we start sitting on the ground with our legs crossed, so when I go to restaurants, without caring kaun dekh raha hai, nahi, I at least fold one leg on the chair because that is how I like to eat. Okay, so I remember last year somebody had invited me on Ganpati, तो उनके यहाँ वो traditional meat था, and obviously इतनी जगह हमारे घर में नहीं होती है कि सब लोग जमीन पे बैठ के खा सकते. So somebody is on a sofa, somebody is on a chair. I was sitting on a chair and I folded my legs. So मुझे देख के, she was a student who had invited me. So another student, she also folded her legs. So they were teasing her कि इतने साल से आ रही, आज तक ये पैर फोल्ड करके ऐसे, इसने सुखासन में बैठ के खाना नहीं खाया था, आपको देख के she is also sitting in सुखासन. So those are small things, simple things that send more blood to your abdominal area and they aid digestion. So, you know, correcting things, another tragedy of our lives is it is so easy to buy a pill and eat it. तो एसिडिटी है तो ये गोली खाएंगे, नींद नहीं आ रही है तो ये गोली खाएंगे, बीपी है, कोलेस्ट्रॉल है, डायबिटीज है, ये गोली खाएंगे. आई एम नॉट सेइंग स्टॉप टेकिंग योर मेडिसिन्स, I'm just saying that there are small things, but very, very important things that go a long way. One, in prevention of disease, and two, in managing it to some extent, which can at least cut down on your medication, if not completely eliminate it. Okay, so slow eating is important. Eating without distraction. Ayurveda says one very important thing. It says कि अगर आप गुस्से में है ना तो खाना मत खाइए. Do not eat when you are angry. See, the beautiful thing is the same thing also applies to relationship management. If you are angry at someone and you're going to burst out then and there, it is going to negatively impact your relationship, which is not to say that don't express. It only says, or it only shows the power of pausing. We are forgetting how to take a step back and pause. है ना? We have fancy terms like FOMO now, fear of missing out. So we want everything and we want everything now. And in that urgency, that fake urgency, which is not doing us any good, we are inviting a lot of trouble. It is all self-invited. आप कितना भी किसी को blame कर लो, उसकी वजह से ऐसा हो रहा है, वो that is the person who is the bane of my life. A lot of it is self-inflicted. So one, eating when one is angry or very stressed or very disturbed, वो खाना शरीर को लगने वाला नहीं है क्योंकि वो digest ही होने वाला नहीं है. Okay? Another thing is to deep breathe. Another very beautiful thing in our culture is that we say a prayer before eating, or we say something, or at least we used to say. है ना? तो हर एक religion के अंदर, हर एक culture के अंदर there is something. जैसे हमारे culture में भी just say Bismillah. And once we finish eating, we say Shukar Mola. So we are expressing gratitude for that food that we've got. Okay. So if you listen to B.K. Shivani, Brahma Kumari Shivani, she always says that before you eat, just express gratitude. Because that energy in your body is going to work with that energy from that food and it is going to bless you. हम लोग जब जैसे अभी नवरात्र चालू है तो जहाँ पे भी बहुत जगहों पे भोग लगता है ना, हाँ, that is a blessing. We call it prasad. We just don't call it khana. और we don't say कि आज भोग में खिचड़ी खाई. We just say कि हमने प्रसाद ग्रहण किया. It has energy. It has healing energy. So food is energy which is going to fuel us. So sometime we'll do a session on Panchakosha or the 5 sheaths of the body. The first sheath or the layer is the Annamaya Kosh, food body. Okay, because that is one source of energy jiske bina we cannot survive. All right, so we need to give it that importance. Another very important thing that works is to take a few deep breaths before you start eating. All these things which I'm telling you is for strengthening Samana vayu. Huh? Okay, daily things that you can do. तो बहुत बार ना हमको लगता है कि अरे इतना अच्छा सेशन था, इतना अच्छा मुद्रा है, इतना सिंपल है, करने का टाइम ही नहीं मिलता है. ठीक है, करने का टाइम नहीं मिलता है, but can you take 3 deep breaths before every meal? Now don't tell me वो 3 deep breaths का टाइम नहीं मिलता है ना? So these are we kind of find ways to fool ourselves sometimes, but these are very doable things. So a few deep breaths, because जब हम deep breath लेते हैं, we've done a session on that, how it activates your parasympathetic nervous system. So it is pure science. वो आपके बॉडी को रेस्ट और डाइजेस्ट मोड में लेकर जाता है. अगर आपका सिंपैथेटिक नर्वस सिस्टम, आपके दिमाग में टू डू लिस्ट चल रही है, यूर थिंकिंग कि अभी उसने ऐसा बोला था, और यूर थिंकिंग कि इसके बाद में ये काम करना है, या कल की डेडलाइन है बट इट इज सो इम्प्रैक्टिकल, you know, या अभी बच्चा आने वाला है. So if you have 1000 thoughts going on in your mind, you are in the active mode, you are in the fight or flight mode, which is how evolution designed us. So you have to take a pause, you have to step back. जैसे वो एक्टर्स होते हैं ना, उनकी लाइफ में कुछ भी चल रहा. So I used to work with a production house. So one of my bosses was an actress, and एक बार हमारे ऑफिस में दिवाली का सेलिब्रेशन था. So we were all decked up in saris, we were taking pictures. So somebody who was taking pictures ना, वो कुछ गड़बड़ हो गई. So he said, keep sitting and keep smiling. So we all had a fake smile. And somebody said, कितनी देर यार ये fake. She said, अब तो she was an actress. She said, पता चला हमारा काम कितना मुश्किल होता है. Sometimes we can't stand an actor and we have to romance him because that is our work and that is what we chose to do. You know. So sometimes you have to keep certain things aside to be able to do justice to what is at hand. Remember that every time you sit down to eat, and sometimes you have to put everything else on hold. Sometimes you have to put the damn phone on silent mode, because the world will not stop spinning if you miss 2 calls. है ना? So very small things, very practical things, if we start doing them right, we will not have to pop pills. Okay. Another very important thing which Ayurveda, which every religion tells us about, is fasting. है ना? In Sanskrit they call it langhanam. तो फास्टिंग, जैसे अभी नवरात्र के व्रत चल रहे हैं, महीने में 2 बार एकादशी आती है, उसके अलावा देयर आर अदर थिंग्स लाइक संकष्टी एटसेट्रा एटसेट्रा. किसी दिन कुछ लोग नॉनवेज नहीं खाते हैं, पर्यूषण आता है, रमजान आता है. All of that, it tells us to give the system a break. है ना? So that is also pausing, na? You kind of pausing your habit of eating every day 4 days of meals or snacking, or at least you are asked to restrict the consumption of a few items for a few days or for that particular day. So that also gives your system a break. I have recently started reading about Ekadashi fasting. It is so fascinating कि एकादशी में लोगों को लगता है ना फास्टिंग मतलब यार मैं तो भूखा नहीं रह सकता. तो imagine someone like me who used to fast during Ramzan at one point of time, all 30 days. Okay, or at least all 25-27 days barring the days of the periods. तो जो निर्जला का कॉन्सेप्ट तो मतलब रमजान में इट इज इंटीग्रेटेड, बिकॉज आप सुबह 5 बजे खाओगे और आप फिर शाम को 7 बजे या व्हाटएवर आप खाओगे, एंड नथिंग इज अलाउड इन बिटवीन, नॉट इवन वाटर. सो दैट इज निर्जला फास्टिंग. So when I started reading about Ekadashi, I found it so fascinating that all the things, you can look at fasting 2 ways. In the Hindu concept, I'm saying, unless you, Nirjala is a different thing. But if you're talking about regular fasting, a lot of people think कि इतना सब नहीं खा सकते. When I read about Ekadashi, I thought इतना सब कुछ खा सकते हैं. And all the things that are allowed are so nutrient dense, because all your root vegetables are allowed, all your tubers are allowed in Ekadashi. Sama or the barnyard millet is allowed. Milk and milk products are allowed. Ghee is allowed. All fruits are allowed. So if somebody told me कि एकादशी पे क्या खाने का समझ में नहीं आता, I would really doubt their clarity of thought, because there is so much that you can eat. So if you start following even those 2 fasts a month, Ekadashi is only twice a month, the kind of break it will give your system, the kind of recharge or rebooting it will give your system, I think that would be fabulous. Okay, so that's just a suggestion. You are free to follow or not follow. Another very important thing when we are talking about Saman Vayu, because it processes thoughts and emotions also, it is very important for the health of the Saman Vayu and overall health that we acknowledge and address our negative emotions. Okay, this is another highly neglected area. साल में एक बार 10 अक्टूबर को ना मेंटल हेल्थ डे आता है. सब लोग अपने व्हाट्सएप स्टेटस पे कुछ ना कुछ डालते हैं. उसके बाद for the next 364 days we forget about it. We don't want to acknowledge, and of course it is disturbing, but if it is like you have to address the elephant in the room, like they say, because it is going to affect you. That's why Ayurveda says ना, जब आप गुस्से में हैं, जब आप बहुत ही stressed हैं, don't eat. Even if you eat, your body cannot process it, it cannot digest it. So it will only lead to more disturbance. That is why we have something called stress eating or emotional eating. So a lot of people, when they are stressed, see, everything in the body is communication between the hormones. There are 2 very important hormones that we need to know about. One is the ghrelin hormone and one is the leptin hormone. Ghrelin is the hunger hormone. जब हमको भूख का संकेत मिलता है, that is because the ghrelin hormone is released in the body. Then वो हमको लगता है बस अभी अब बहुत भूख लगी, अब खाना खाना चाहिए. We should not wait to reach that state कि पागल जैसी भूख लगी है. We should start eating a little before that. The other is the leptin hormone, which is the satiety hormone. Leptin tells you it is time to stop. हो गया. But a lot of times वो बेचारा लेप्टिन बोल बोल के थक जाता है. We don't honor it, or sometimes we eat so fast. I remember there used to be this ad on TV. I don't remember what it was. I think Complan या ऐसे किसी product की ad थी where they were showing कि बच्चे जो Complan पीते वो कितने तेज होते हैं. So one of the trivia that they had shared was that it takes 20 minutes for the brain to register that the tummy is full. So ideally, our meal time should be at least 20 minutes. So if you're eating slowly, if you are chewing properly, तो 20 minutes निकल जाता है. I have still not passed 10 minutes. That is a confession. So I still have a long way to go. Okay. So if we eat slowly, we will realize that we don't even need to eat as much. क्योंकि हम बहुत जल्दी खाते हैं, क्योंकि दिमाग में 50 चीजें होती है जब हम खाते हैं, we tend to ignore all, or rather we don't register these things. So these two hormones are very important. जो अगर हम stress में हैं, then we are going to ignore them. We are going to not live in accordance with the functioning that those hormones are meant to serve. Okay. So identifying, acknowledging and addressing negative emotions, stressful situations. We all have people in our lives जिनसे हमारी नहीं बनती है. Now think of one such person and imagine that you are having a meal with that person. And that person जो भी उनकी हरकतें, आदतें, बातें आपको पसंद नहीं है, वही वो उस खाने के समय कर रहे हैं. Are you going to enjoy that meal? If you're not going to enjoy the act, even if it is your favorite dish on the table, you will still not enjoy it. है ना? And now if you reverse the situation, if you're eating with somebody whose company you like, you having a pleasant conversation, there is no discomfort, then that act of eating, that act of processing and elimination, everything is going to be smoother. Okay. So it all works as a whole. There is no separating or compartmentalizing things. Okay. So if I'm not saying if that person is your family member, you divorce or you separate or you move into a different house, that is not a possibility. All I'm trying to say is that when it comes to meal times, it is a sacred time. It is like your puja time. जब हमको पूजा करनी होती है, 50 काम छोड़ के we will take a bath. We will not, ना लेट हो रहा है बोल के हम बिना नहाए पूजा नहीं करते हैं ना, बिना नहाए हम मंदिर नहीं जाते. I remember I'd gone to stay at an ISKCON property and I said, what time is the aarti? And that Prabhuji very proudly told me, it is universal standard, 4:30 a.m. in the morning is the first aarti of the day. I said, मतलब उसके पहले नहा के आना पड़ेगा? Sorry, I will not come. But if we have to go, we will make that effort, right? So if we start according the same importance to our meal times, we will all be much more healthier. Okay, so we need to identify. And then, like I said, sometimes you just have to take a step back like that actress and forget that you hate the sight of this hero, but you have to romance him right now. Okay, so you put your personal biases aside and you be in the moment. So at least take a few deep breaths, at least put your phone on silent, at least shut the screen for some time, laptop or whatever, and just focus on that meal. And maybe say a prayer or express gratitude कि बहुत लोग हैं दुनिया में जिनको खाना नहीं मिल रहा है पर मुझे मिल रहा है. Your energy changes and everything in the universe is energy. There is nothing except energy. The clothes that we wear, the colors that we wear, everything is energy. That is why we have a system called color therapy. We have something called flower therapy. Everything is energy. Okay. So try to eat with a calm mind. Another very important thing which I learned in the course of very simple, ऐसे देखने में लगता है it is so obvious, but sometimes we miss the obvious. जैसे हम बोलते हैं ना कि money saved is money earned, है ना? Everybody has heard that. Similarly, prana that is conserved is prana that is earned. Sometimes with our own habits, we end up wasting a lot of energy. I really feel very sad for people who spend a lot of time on social media viewing and commenting on other people's lives. It is such a waste of energy. जैसे जब हम, for example, अगर हमारे family में कोई need है, we will lend our, or we may even donate our hard-earned money because that person is a family member. Will we do that for every Tom, Dick and Harry? We don't do that, na? पैसे का कितना महत्व होता है, क्योंकि पैसे कमाने में, बचाने में बहुत एफर्ट, बहुत सैक्रिफाइस लगता है. Somehow we don't think like that about energy. So we rant, we give opinions, we give unsolicited advice, we only expend energy in the bargain. We crib and complain and we curse and we bitch and we gossip and we expend energy. So it is very fascinating when it comes to vayu or vata. Over talking depletes vata. Talking is movement. It is movement of the facial muscles. It is involvement of the voice box. It is a source of energy. The over talking depletes prana. है ना? That is why if you have practiced meditation in any form, in this class also you may have observed so many of you message कि after pranayam energy body में अच्छी लगती है. You know, you feel quieter, calmer. You feel like बिना कुछ किए you have recharged yourself. That is why no form of meditation encourages talking. Pravachan is a different thing. Satsang is a different thing. But that is also energy, where you're learning about folklore or mythology or real life examples. It is giving you food for thought. What an expression, food for thought. That is also energy. But if we just waste it, then obviously we are doing a big disservice to ourselves. So it is important to identify our habits, our traits that deplete us of energy, because energy preserved or conserved is also energy earned. Okay, on that note, we have only 10 minutes. Saman vayu, I've already told you the mudra is this. Exactly जैसे हम खाना खाने के लिए निवाला उठाते हैं. How much more beautiful can it get? Okay, because it governs your digestion. And like I said, like we say in every, अच्छा, one more thing for new students especially, इसको इतना नहीं दबाना है कि आपको प्रेशर हो और आपकी एनर्जी खपे. वेस्ट नहीं करना है आपको एनर्जी. आपको इतना ही उसको टच करना है कि यू शुड फील सम पल्सेशन. जैसे जब हम नस पे हाथ रखते हैं, वी कैन फील द लाइफ, वी कैन फील द थ्रॉबिंग. सो यू ओनली touch it and you bring it together to that extent. I don't want to use the word press, where you can feel some throbbing. It is very powerful. The moment you do it, you can feel energy, because we are all pulsating with energy. Okay, one last thing for the benefit of new students. जब भी हम कोई भी हस्त मुद्रा करते हैं, it is a pranic circuit. You need to see that it should not go outside the body. It is a pranic circuit. Like energy flows, it has to flow back. So it has to stay within the periphery of your body. ऐसे हाथ रख के कभी मत बैठिए जब आप मुद्रा, हस्त मुद्रा बनाते हैं. आप ऐसे रखिए. So like I always say, you lift and roll back your shoulders. Your chest should be open. I love that phrase so much. It's my new favorite. Don't sit like a cashew. Okay? Sit upright and you make the mudra. चश्मा पहना है तो निकाल दीजिए. आंखें आप बंद करने वाले हैं. And just connect with the natural rhythm of your breath right now. Okay? Make sure that your hands are within the periphery of your body. If you need to use back support, please use it. And first, just connect with your breath. जैसी भी अभी वो है, slow है, fast है, neutral है, जो भी है, just let it flow and observe it. आंखें बंद ही रखें and listen to me carefully. समान also means equal. हम बोलते हैं ना, सब लोग एक समान है, एक जैसे हैं. Similarly, समान also means equal. अब आपको कोशिश करनी है consciously कि आपका inhalation और exhalation equal duration का हो. So in your mind maybe you can just observe कि जब आप सांस भर रहे हैं तो कितने सेकंड हो रहा है. 1, 2, 3, 4, whatever number of seconds. Then you try to equalize the exhalation also. Make sure the spine remains tall. Don't be very forceful with the breath. जितना आप उसको समान या इक्वल कर सकते हैं आप करें, वरना आप रेगुलर ब्रीदिंग या स्लो ब्रीदिंग पे फोकस करें. We will continue to practice for another 2-3 minutes. Even if you get tired, at least sit with your eyes closed. आंखें बंद ही रहने दें. You may slowly release the mudra, the hasta mudra. And we will spend the last minute or two just on Swadhyay. Just take your attention towards the whole body like a scanner and become aware of how you are feeling at the moment. How are you feeling physically, mentally, emotionally? Think of some words. If somebody were to ask you, "Abhi aapko kaisa lag raha hai?" What are the words that would come to your mind? Become aware of the thoughts. Is the mind cluttered with too many thoughts? Has the duration and frequency of thoughts gone down? Whatever it is, right now you're only taking stock. And once again, take your attention to your heart and your natural breathing. How does it feel? And now put all this information together to assess whether the environment in your body, mind, heart at the moment is conducive for Samana Vayu or not. If you eat now, almost breakfast time, if you eat now, how is it going to work internally? Is it going to fuel your body? Is it going to nourish you? Or is it going to create some imbalance or disturbance? If we can ask ourselves this question before every meal, that in itself will help us to strengthen Samana Vayu. On that note, like I always like to end the pranayam class, I would request you that even if you have 30 seconds with you, आप कुछ देर आराम से बैठे, with your eyes closed, with a tall spine. Just sit in silence, even if you have only 30 seconds. I will end the meeting from my end, तो आपके यहाँ से भी खत्म हो जाएगी. Whatever time you have, you sit in silence and then go about your day. I'll see you on Monday in the class. Till then, take care.